Hello and welcome to Freebird. And today I'm so excited to have a very special and very young person on the show. I want to begin by saying that adversity does not really build character, it reveals it. And we have a very young Neil DSilva with very mature shoulders on the show. Welcome, Neil.
Thank you so much, Neha. Yeah, absolutely agree with what you just said about adversity building, not building characters and just showing.
Yeah.
I've experienced and I've seen that in my parents over the years through the life experiences they have gone through, with not just things related to me, but in general.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, awesome. I want to introduce you, Neil, to everyone watching the show today or listening to the show on the podcast. So, a little bit about you. You are right now a coach with one of India's premier performance, platforms. You are a triathlete, and I'm not kidding, written down a list of your achievements, which I want to just rattle off very quickly. Ironman 70.3 Zyman, Vasai Virar Triathlon, Goa Triathlon, Ironman 70.3 World Championships, which we'll come to about later. Ironman 70.3 Colombo, Pune Recreation Triathlon, Jaipur Triathlon, Deccan Triathlon, and the latest was Ironman 70.3 Turkey. Right. So not only are you a very active triathlete for someone so young, you have been sponsored by some of the biggest brands in the sporting world, like Garmin, and you have raised money for foundations. You have been covered by the media. At 25, I think I was just trying to figure out what I'd do with my life. So I'm really, really excited to have you on board today's dialogue. But whenever I think about someone who's achieved so much, I know that there is always a story behind it. And I'm so happy that you've chosen to share your story. And I believe that will be inspiring to so many people who are going to be watching this show today. And
Yeah,
a part of your
let's
story,
hope for that.
a part of your story, of course, Neil, is the fact that you have had an experience with addiction and you have overcome it successfully. So let's start there, maybe, and maybe tell us about how were the beginnings with addiction? How did it all begin, and what was your journey there?
Yeah, sure. So I think I smoked my first cigarette when I was about 14, and it was just out of curiosity between me and this one friend that I had. We used to go to tuitions together, not school. Um, and one of the days, I don't even remember who made this about let's try smoking a cigarette, me or my friend. But yeah, I mean, we both did, and passed my 10th grade with decent percentage and good grades, as you say. But I went on to experimenting with a lot more things in a couple of years, which my other friend did not. The guy who I smoked my first cigarette with, and this was me just passing 10th grade, and I mean that cigarette smoking habit continued through college. um, I in my 11th and 12th grade, I should have ideally gone for commerce, because science was something that I was never interested in. There are these three fields, right, that you
Yeah.
can choose from: art, science, and commerce.
Yeah.
Yeah. So from day 7 in college, I was like, this is not happening. So I just let it go. I was like, we'll see as time comes. I stopped attending college, and I stopped attending tuitions, and I started playing snooker at this snooker parlor, wherein um, I mean, it became an habit. Like every day I had to get up and, go and play snooker all day. And that's where I started gambling. uh, I mean, merrily as a 15-year-old, I was placing bets on cricket matches, and eventually I would become a small bookie myself, wherein I used to take like bets from my other friends. And I remember at that point in time there was this movie by Imran Hashmi. I can't remember the name, but he was a gambler and then eventually a
Oh,
bookie, and then he got
yeah.
into
I think
match
it was
fixing.
Gangster, right? The one with Kangna Ranaut with the curly hair.
I, I no, no, huh? Jannat. I
Jannat.
think
Yes,
Jannat.
yes, yes, yes.
Jannat, yeah. So I mean, I mean, at that age, looking at that movie, and with the thing that I was thinking, I'm like, hey man, I've got the thing figured out. I mean, I want to do this in life. Like, I want to become a bigger bookie when I grow old. And I mean, yeah, obviously there was a bit of winning at the start, but like most of the gambling addicts, or people who have been doing that whole thing
Yeah.
will tell you that it's always the house that wins and not the person who bets. Okay, so then I had to, I mean, lose a couple of big ones, and my poor parents had to back me up in terms of paying those gambling debts. Okay, in that same place, towards the end, I got into this habit of, let's try something that's more than a cigarette. That's
Mm.
when I started smoking hash and weed. And then there were my other friends who were already into this. Like, usually in India, every locality has this park
Oh,
which is ideally meant for old aged people to walk, and kids to play, but
and
it's
not
never utilized for
with.
that.
Yeah.
It's never utilized for that, and it's usually a hangout place for all the smokers and drug addicts to just come and have their joint or have that cigarette. So I had this older friends from that spot, and yeah, started experimenting with soft drugs at the beginning, and then eventually went on to doing chemicals like LSD, and I mean, you name it, and I've probably done it, if not like regularly, but I've definitely tried it. And in about couple of years, I progressed from being like a recreational, just like user who just wants to experiment with things, to being a person who wanted to do it all the time. If I had the resources, I would have done it all day long. uh, and that is what happened. Whenever I had the resource to do it, we would like do it. If there was no money, then okay, maybe I'm not doing it. But as soon as I can lay my hands on some big buck, that is the thing that me and my friends used to look forward to.
Mm-hmm.
I think, I mean, there's always a blame game that comes into play. Once the parents understand about your habits, they usually try to point it to your friend, saying he got you into this. But
Yeah.
I think that is just pointless. I mean, if you just acknowledge the fact that okay, maybe my kid has a problem and let's deal with it, rather than, I mean, what's the point at pointing fingers at who got whom into the whole thing. So yeah, I mean, that was my journey, and that led me to dropping out of college because science was not happening anymore. I tried doing I tried going into commerce and changed my college and everything. But then my priorities in life had already changed. I mean, mentally I was okay not being educated, or not having this degree in education, and it was just like a floating bird. I mean, taking life as it was coming. And I think more than the drugs, I got into this whole party scene, listening to psytrance music and raving. And so for a 16-year-old, looking at those fancy shiny clubs and people coming in their cool cars and having a good time. I was like, hey man, if this guy can do drugs and still have a functional life, so can I. But that was my understanding. I mean, that is how I
Oh,
interpreted others doing substance. Okay, but then that is not how it was meant for me. I mean, I'm an extremist. Like, whatever I start doing, I want to, like, dig so deep, like nowhere has ever been there. So that is my obsessive habit. Like, has been. I think I'm born with it.
mhm.
In a couple of years, my parents figured out. Not sure if you. I'm sure you don't need the details how, but they did. They
Yeah,
had to eventually, and they put me in a correctional facility.
which is the
So yeah,
Kripa
that is
Foundation, right?
Kripa Foundation. Yes,
Yeah.
Kripa Foundation. They have a bunch of centers across India, and they are affiliated to multiple other entities, even abroad, for doing the same work.
You
Yeah. So
probably
that
don't
is.
even realize it, but I'm watching you
Mm,
speak about this. And of course, we are both Indians. We know how, the context, the cultural context is, right? That whenever, like, I
correct.
put it so well when you said that, you always think of who to blame, but in the end, it's not really about who to blame. It's about taking
Correct.
responsibility for things so that you can then empower yourself and make that change, right? So I totally get
Absolutely.
that. And I think this is where we, for the lack of a better word, mess up, uh, even as a society and even as, all these movies that are there in India. They're only recently that, a lot of people have brought to light, the drug problem in India, or rather the lack of awareness, or the lack of real education that's given to the young. In fact, it's so funny. I was driving to the gym yesterday. I have to tell you this. And a friend of mine, she's from the Caribbean, and she's like,
Hmm.
India has drugs. You always think of this, like, very, very spiritual place and whatever. And I was like, yes, honey, we have all the, issues that the rest of the world has. But maybe as a society, we
Absolutely.
don't take responsibility, we don't talk about it. And when we don't talk
Correct.
about it, nothing can change. So, Neil, I mean, you're so young and you're so open about this subject. I really want to take a moment to say, that is a very brave thing you're doing, talking about it.
See, I think this whole thing about me being so open and vocal about it comes from my parents, who were never the type of parents who brushed this whole incidents under the carpet in terms of me taking ownership of
Mm.
what I had done. And they were like, I know people, like I know families who will completely try to act as something like this never happened.
Uh-huh.
And that's where the accountability also goes down, to like in terms of the person who's made the mistake. Not just saying addiction or anything, but yeah, that's the society we live in, who wherein we are so conscious about we are so conscious about the reputation that we have in the society that we live in. And we are so bothered about constantly we are just thinking about what is someone else going to think of me, how is this person going to perceive or take this decision that I want to take.
Yeah.
And I mean, that is where dreams are killed. That is where ownership is not passed on to the person who makes the mistake. Like, I was just reading the other day somewhere, like, a family would rather hide their son or daughter, for that matter. I mean, it doesn't really happen in terms of the daughter. Like they'll hide him being a molester rather than him being a person who is gay. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
that is I mean, that is how bad the problem is. Like, about what is someone going to. It's like, it's just. I mean, it's just sad. I would say. I don't know. I don't have any other
How,
words for
how
it.
I mean, are your
But
parents in general like very forward looking, or how did they kind of? Do you know a little bit of how they navigated it? Because that might be something that we can kind of highlight in their behavior,
Correct.
how that helped you. Because I'm sure if you didn't have, and I believe this even myself, that if we don't really have the support of either a community or a family, it's sometimes
Hmm.
hard to navigate challenges in our life, right? That's the truth. So
Correct.
what was their approach like?
See, I mean, in terms of passing ownership about whatever happened, they did it. I mean, they did it in a way that they told all our close relatives, okay, Neil is going through this problem to
Mm,
start with, and this thing about me being so comfortable and open and wanting to speak about this whole experience is Father Joe Pereira. I mean, he is the founder trustee of Kripa Foundation, and he's also a yoga guru, and he's very close to me and my family. Uh, came close to me only after I went to rehab, but my
sure.
family knew, like, our families know each other, not just him, families from my grandfather's time. Like, he
Right.
was friends with Father Joe's brother and all that thing. But
Absolutely.
he told me one thing,
Yeah.
Neil, the day you say I am recovered, okay, the day you stop acknowledging like, being aware of the fact that you've been through that is the day where you are, very susceptible to getting back, that constant feeling of, so a
That's
person
big.
can never say I'm a yeah, so that's what a person can never say I'm a recovered drug addict or I'm a recovered alcoholic. The person can be 50 years sober and still he has to, like, the thing is I'm a recovering addict, because that thing about him going back to square one is it just takes like one drink or
Wow.
just maybe one line of cocaine. So I mean, a person always stays in recovery, and you have to constantly be acknowledge that thing about your life, and you'll be like, okay, I mean, whatever, good or bad, I mean, they're just life experiences, and the way you react and continue to acknowledge them defines who you become eventually. Like, you yeah, that's what.
I love that. I love that. I mean, there is so deep wisdom in what he said, because sometimes when we go through, let's say, mistakes, right, or experiences,
Hmm,
or whatever we do in our
hmm,
life, and I'm not talking solely about your experience here. Everyone
correct,
has a story, right? And then you kind of
correct,
say, oh yeah, that was in the past. That was a bad thing that I did or whatever. But you kind of
correct.
almost throw away a part of yourself. And I
Correct.
believe this as well, that you are a summary of all your experiences, and all of your experiences, if used wisely, can help you move forward in whatever direction you
Hmm,
want to go. But that's like serious
correct.
wisdom there coming from Father Joe.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So
Awesome.
he and one more person who was very helpful in my rehab stint was the counselor that I was allocated. His
Mm,
name is Brett. He and Father Joe literally, like, helped me through that phase, gave me a different perspective on life, and yeah, yeah, that's
that's
how it happened.
amazing.
The
I'm,
rehab
I'm,
stint.
I'm
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I'm so happy that you had the support that you needed at the time. Really, I mean, I believe that
absolutely.
was a pivotal moment for you. And
Correct. Yeah.
I do want to ask you though: do you believe that when you look back, or when you even consider this, do you believe that there were certain, I don't know, triggers? There was something that kind of made you develop this habit. Can you, does it even work that way? Can you identify something, or is it just something that happens?
So, okay, in I'll tell you something. At least in retrospective, when I think about everything else, I'll just give you like a one liner about
Yeah.
my life, and we can speak more about that whole experience in some time.
Yeah.
But I very recently got diagnosed with ADHD and being bipolar. Okay,
Mm.
so maybe or maybe not. I mean, that always existed in
Yeah.
me. Obviously, ADHD can get detected earlier in life, but bipolar is only detected 25, 27 range, and I'm
Yeah.
27, so it got detected now. But we use this term ADHD so frequently, and like, in such a casual way, like, saying a good evening or a good afternoon in today's society. I mean, you shouldn't, man. It's a big problem for who actually have it. Okay.
Yeah.
Most of my decisions through my teenage, through young adulthood, whatever I've made, can all be linked to ADHD, wherein you have a certain personality type of being extremely impulsive in what decisions you make.
Yeah.
And um, and the whole spectrum, both of them, they have this thing of having addictive personalities.
Right.
So wanting to seek gratification through multiple things. So maybe it can, maybe that was the reason of why I got into it, and how come I got out of it. We will get to, we'll speak about it again in
Yeah.
a bit. But maybe, yeah, that was the reason why I made those life choices. The second one is, I think, a full blown addiction also runs in, it's hereditary. It's
Mm.
a gene
Is
which
it?
causes you to, yeah. So for example, two people, you and me, you can have a couple of beers and then move on.
Yeah.
And if an addict, if I have a beer, I mean, I'm going to get drunk, I'm going to pass out till then, I'm going to keep drinking, then I'm going to wake up and go back to drinking. That is like full blown addiction, which I don't believe I had, because um okay, let me like, continue with the story. 2012 is when I went to rehab. Okay.
Mm.
I was sober that, for that entire year, like maybe 8 months after I completed my stint at the rehab. And I started using again. So 2013, 14, and 15, half of 15, I was using, and I was a functional person. I realized how I can manage what I want to do along with like normal life, functional life, and no one questioned me about doing it, because I think this time around I was more careful about how my parents are, what they are thinking of me,
Yeah.
and how they are monitoring me.
You knew
And
the trick to kind of navigate that whole
correct,
thought.
correct,
Yeah.
correct, 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 correct. So yeah, and 2014 end is when I started, like, slightly, to jog and to like, gymming. But I picked up running as a sport in 2015 when I joined this running club, which had like great coaches. And suddenly, just one day, I woke up and I said, I'm having fun in running. I think I can become a better runner if I don't do drugs. And that was 6th of March. I precisely remember the date. It
Oh,
was after this bomb ass party I attended in Blue Frog, wherein I had so much drugs in me. Next morning, I wake up, I'm like, I don't need to do this anymore. And I was like, and I never looked back. And 13th of March, another one incident led me to, hey, I don't want to smoke cigarettes anymore. So I've just quit, like, So I think I acknowledge this as a blessing. And I think it was a divine intervention.
absolutely.
The the supreme conscious, like,
Yeah.
as we acknowledge this wanted something else out of me. And from then I've been very vocal about my recovery, my relapse, then what. So whoever I tried, like whoever I speak to, whoever is in this problem, whenever I'm blessed with that opportunity to have a one-on-one in terms of how they should approach their lives, or how they should approach their addiction, I tell them only one thing. Going to a rehabilitation center is one thing. They'll put you through the 12-step program that exists, for
Yeah.
addicts,
Yeah.
all of that. But you have to find your reason, like why. That why is so crucial for recovery. I found that why in running. Someone else can find that why in something else,
Mm.
and third person in something else. But it is very important to figure out that why. If I had managed to figure out that why sitting in the rehab, maybe I would have stopped drugs at in 2012 itself. but I had not figured that out. But as soon as I figured it out, I mean, it was so effortless, quitting to do substances. It was just like, okay, fine, okay, I don't want to do it anymore. For addicts, it's going to be a little more difficult than what it was for me. But I think if they just ponder over the thought of what is their why through various techniques, like through meditation, through speaking to more people, through whatever. I mean, there's no textbook in which you are going to go and find solutions to this problem.
Oh yeah, I wish there
The
was one. We would all be reading it. Yeah,
So that's what. So I mean, it's just not addiction for drugs and alcohol, or sex, or money addiction, or work addiction. I mean, we just, because of the social conditioning that we've been given throughout our lifetime, and what has gotten passed from our generations,
yeah.
this brainwashing that money addiction is okay, this brainwashing that work
Love that.
addiction is okay.
I love
I
that.
mean, it's you, if there's no balance in your life, how is it okay? Like, what are you here, like, what is that purpose? We don't give that importance to your own purpose. Like, only if a person thinks about, okay, money and my job and my social status is not everything,
Yeah,
but there exists something more. The day they start drawing their line in terms of, this is what I am as an employee or as a business owner, but there is more to life than just what they are doing in terms of those aspects. I mean, life just becomes so much, like, there's so much more suddenly to possibilities of you having, you getting to experience those different levels of happiness. Money, yeah, does give you happiness. I'm not saying, I mean, it does not. it,
yeah,
it gives you the ability of buying a certain things in life which make you happy temporarily, which is again not bad, which
yeah.
is okay. But if you're in constant pursuit of wanting more, like, in terms of materialistic things, then at least I feel you're never truly happy.
No,
Like,
I love two things that you've kind of highlighted, and it's very, very important for people to understand this, because a lot of times when we think about addiction or any kind of addiction, right, then we have this kind of
correct,
shame, guilt, the seven cycles of whatever grief associated with it. And I feel
correct,
truly, I think we're all kind of just, there are some things that society has made acceptable, right? So if I am like, go, let's just take an example. Because you know about my burnout and I shared that with you. So if I'm
correct,
going
yeah,
and spending like 20 hours a day or working over my weekends and just giving everything to my job, that's okay, right? But no one kind of stops you to say, where is, like the word you say, where is the balance? What is it that
correct, yeah,
truly, who are you truly, and what is it that you want to do in this lifetime? I mean, money can't be everything, right? There was this interesting
absolutely,
study that I don't know, like I'm forgetting what the study was, but it was that if you take a group of people who are very rich and who are very poor and give them $1 million in 1 year, the rich will be as sad and the poor will be as sad. I mean, money has got nothing to do with the way we process emotions or how we find our
correct,
sense of meaning or even purpose or value in our lifetime. So I think the
correct,
one very important point that you made was about understanding that addiction is really at the end maybe a quest for something that we're seeking to fulfill within ourselves. And we need
correct.
to ask that question. So I think that's a lovely spin, and thank you, Neil, for pointing it out. I could not have said it better. I think that's very true. And the other thing that I also believe is that the second thing I wanted to share is that I don't know, like sometimes I look at a lot of people, and this is probably one of the reasons why I was inspired to do Freebird, is that you look at people who've kind of gone through so much adversity. And in your case, I mean, hello, you're 16, 18. I mean, it's like nothing. You're like a baby at those ages, right? You don't know so much of the world.
Yeah,
your
Correct.
kind of I don't know, like exponential learning curve that's happened in your life, to kind of you being at a place now where you have been through it, but through that experience you're able to really share with people that we're just not flesh and bones and this bag that we call a body, but we're like beyond that, and there's something that you can do beyond that. I don't know, I'm looking at you and I'm thinking, my god, he's so young. What are the amazing things that you're going to do in the next 10 years with this knowledge?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'll get to that. But yeah, that's what they say, right? True liberation only comes when you accept what you are and be vocal about it. And I've had a certain life experiences which I like to share in a certain way with a certain intention. You just, if you can imagine, if everybody starts doing this, not on public platforms, but just to their near and dear ones, just be vocal about it. How many more happy souls will we have in this, like, in the universe? Like, all the emotions that we try to suppress constantly keep feeding this thing in your head, like that insecurity. When you suppress emotions, especially the negative ones, I think everyone has someone who they can possibly go and share it to, but people decide otherwise. People constantly think, constantly are in a fear of being judged.
Yeah,
Okay. Uh, that is what keeps them from sharing those emotions. But I truly think, like, I mean, personally, I've had so many. I like to acknowledge them as great life experiences. Should just detach themselves from this whole idea of like someone is judging me somewhere. How does it matter to you? What difference does it make to your life? Honestly speaking, if you're just vocal about it, I mean, the four close friends that you have are going to give you that just that this thoughtful ear, like, okay, I'm there to listen to you. Rest everyone else don't matter. Yeah.
I
I
know.
I honestly think, like, and honestly speaking, this is a recent development, like, honestly, um till before I got depressed and got into this cycle of mania, and somewhere in between that I had my this of, like, there is a lot more than what we can see, feel, and touch.
Yeah,
Like, got into a little more into spirituality, and that's when I realized, I mean, it doesn't matter. Like, it shouldn't matter, it doesn't matter, and it shouldn't matter. And that is when I made the rule, like, whenever I have a discussion or a chat with even my closest of friends, if a topic of a third person comes and we are trying to, like, speak, the group wants to speak ill about it, I'm going to excuse myself from that conversation. Or if they are close enough, I'm going to point out, boss, this is not the right thing to do. Why do you want to speak about someone? There are so many things that we can just
yeah,
chat about ourselves. Like, you point out something negative in me and you want to have a discussion, come on, I'm game for it. Why
yeah,
do you want to have this discussion about some random person, and we, like, focus our energy on that? I mean, it's not
absolutely.
worth it. It's not the right thing to do, and it's not worth it also.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about sport. I just want to touch upon it briefly because out of all the people I know, you are probably the youngest triathlete that I know who has got like so
Okay.
many achievements. So I just want to like touch upon, because I believe, look, I'll tell you something. Um, it was only till 3 years ago that just 3 years ago that I understood how big movement was in my own life, right? So if there was a
Hmm.
difficult emotion that I was trying to process, or you're just angry with something, right? And you can go for a run or I love spinning. So if you go spin for half an hour, or dance for an hour, right? Suddenly that emotion just transforms into something different, right? Instead of just suppressing it and then feeling angry and all of that. So in your life, I see
Correct.
that you have used sport as a very, very big way to
Correct.
transform from where you were to where you are today, to the point where you, I know, coach a lot of people around, and advise people on how to get on that path. So tell us a little bit about your sporting journey.
Okay. So, like I mentioned earlier, I started running November 2014, like casually jogging, I would say. Started like proper running, like I told you, March 2015. And yeah, I mean, I did my first half marathon in Hyderabad in August, and before that, I have got no experience in sport. I grew up as a baby. I had this thin windpipe, like, which, because of which I kept falling sick and I was like feeble. But doctors had said that once I grow older, it will become okay naturally, and I'd be okay. I mean, no long term breathing problems or anything like that. So so as a kid, I was never encouraged to play because I was so weak that I used to fall sick. So
Yeah.
that habit continued even when I grew up, when everything was normal. And I became obese. By the time I was in my 11th grade, I was 108 kgs, you know.
Wow.
And
That's insane.
so
Looking
like
right now, I
basically,
can't imagine it. I can't imagine it.
yeah. So then doing all the drugs that I did after that pulled me down to 72. I went to the rehab, and after coming out being clean, again ballooned to 89. That's where I started my running journey.
Mm,
And in a very holistic way, I started losing weight, like good diet, good exercise.
sure.
And yeah, so and then December that same year, December 2015, is when I picked up a running injury, which was going to keep me down for a couple of months. And a few friends, runner friends, also used to go cycling. So that's when I bought my first cycle, and at that time, buying a 35,000 bike was like my, like, it's never heard of,
I
this
know,
is
I
a
know.
few
Yeah.
years back. And people, like parents who have lived in a generation, and even for us as kids, we used to buy good bikes for 5,000-6,000 rupees.
I
Like
know.
this
They'd be
must
like,
be what,
what is this?
2003.
Huh? Why are you doing this?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So no, but still they were like, okay, fine. They supported me. And I started cycling as cross training for to aid my running. And anyway, because I couldn't run because of the injury, I was cycling a lot. That led me to doing this long distance cycling. It's not really a competition, but it's an event. Like, you don't get prizes for being first, second, or third.
Hmm.
But whatever. It was a 200-kilometer bike ride
Don't just
event.
say it like that. 200 kilometers is a lot. It takes me like
It's a
4 days of spinning to do that.
Okay, so that's what. So I started training for that. I set my goal, like, now that I can't run, let me cycle a lot more.
Yeah.
And that day, I mean, because, though there was no podium, I still finished first. And I created a new course record for that 200-kilometer route. So you get this app Strava, and you
Yeah,
can
yeah.
track who's the, yeah, all of that. Hi, I'm sure you must know from
Yeah.
your
Your
Neil.
your namesake is your namesake Neil, who is my husband for those who don't know.
Correct,
Yeah. He's like,
correct,
yeah,
yeah.
always
Mm,
on Strava.
mm. No, correct, exactly. Checking out other people's. No,
Checking
that
your
gave me
data.
a
Yeah.
correct. Yeah, exactly. That gave me a good sense of feeling in terms of okay, I cycle well. And suddenly that year, triathlon had gotten a lot more visibility because Milind Soman had done it
Oh, yeah.
in Switzerland, and it
Right.
was all over the news. So I was like, hey, I can run, I can bike, I just have to swim, and I can also do a triathlon like this chap. And it looks like an exciting sport.
Yeah.
So yeah, I started swimming in July. And, like, my parents, the first race that I did was directly a 70.3. The distance in terms of miles, but I'll tell you in kilometers, it's 1.9 kilometers of swimming, 90 kilometers cycling, and 21.1 kilometers of running.
Right.
Directly did that. And more than anyone, my parents have been extremely instrumental in terms of what I am today, not just because they've invested a lot in terms of the sport, because it's a very expensive sport.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
They always say
forget
this
the
about
35,000.
athletes.
Forget the 35,000 bike that I bought when I just started cycling. The other better bike that I bought before my first race uh, was worth 100 times more. 3,500, 35.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, okay,
The
3.5 lakh
bike,
rupees
the
basically.
wetsuit, the running shoes,
Exactly.
the
So it was a
registration
very
fees.
everything. Yeah, the
Yeah,
list just goes on. Trust me,
yeah.
like and then suddenly you will have upgrades for your bike, then you'll have upgrades for your
I
devices
know.
and whatnot. So yeah, did that race, and luckily I got the world championship slot in that same
That
race.
was so amazing. I mean, really,
Yeah.
kudos to you. Kudos.
So no, trust me, I don't like. I'm very intuitive, okay, and I never not follow my intuitions, and I always incidences like this, I take them as signs from the universe. Like the universe is speaking to me, and maybe it's the right thing to actually give it a serious thought of how I can make this sport a full-time profession.
Right.
So so yeah, I mean, I had before I actually decided to do the 70.3 race, I had told my mom, like, mom, please, like, help me out right now. And I totally intend to make this my profession eventually. And getting the slot, world championship slot, just like, I got this, that kid, you're on the right path, just keep
Yeah.
pushing. And then I had that great race, and I mean, I have had great coaches from day one, like from the start, from the start for running or for triathlons for that matter. I mean, I have had great coaches. To start off running, I had this coach called Daniel Vaz and Melvin Crasto. Coach Dan is head coach at Nike Run Club Mumbai, and he's a great personality, one of the best
Wow.
coaches in India. Then I have trained for a bit under this other good coach, Kaustubh Radkar.
Yeah.
Then Viv Menon, and then Subramani Venkatesh. He's one of the fastest athletes to do the Ironman. Indian, stays in US.
Wow.
Good coach. Deepak Raj. So yeah, I mean, the universe is just handing me over things in science that I have picked on and I have pushed hard. Not it, Yeah, it did take a lot of hard work. I wouldn't. I don't want to be modest in terms of what I have worked for,
Yeah.
because it takes
Just
a
200
lot of hard work.
kilometers on the weekend. Just.
Yeah, so yeah, just that. But yeah, it's a lot of hard work, and eventually I did pick up my dream job as a coach with Yoska, who I still work with, and so yeah, after the last race, I mean, I faced a little amount of, not little amount. I mean, I exhausted myself, and I just couldn't train. And that's when the universe, brought about this opportunity of actually organizing an Ironman race in India,
I
because
know. That
we
was
organized I mean, my company, yeah, my company organizes this race, and we are the license holders. And I was the part of the core team who actually made this beautiful race happen in Goa last year. And yeah, so let me, talk about this organizing race part. I will tell you a bit about my diagnosis
yeah.
towards being bipolar. So last year before the race, I came to Goa for the first time for this purpose, and decided to move cities. I mean, I have got such a great wife that she agreed to the move, and she was like, if you are so passionate about the sport, and there is going to be this race every year in Goa, and there's so much more to do other than organizing the race. She took that plunge of the huge leap of faith, because she's a chartered accountant,
Yeah.
and moving out of Mumbai and relocating to Goa is
Oh,
like a
yeah. It's a
career
big call.
suicide
It's
in
a big
terms of,
call.
yeah, yeah, I mean, career suicide in terms of at least finances. She'll get a job and all.
Oh,
She'll
yeah.
be
She's
okay.
gonna be. I mean, trust me, I'm a little older than you guys, so I can tell you this that eventually when you're on your path, miracles can happen wherever you are.
Correct. So that's what. So I mean, just because she believed in me and she said yes to that whole thing, we preponed our marriage by a year, and we moved cities. And the the behavior that I had before the Ironman race, I spent a lot of money over things which are not really relevant, like clothes and this and that. And I had excess energy, and there were a few positives to having that extra bit of energy in me through that phase.
Yeah.
Uh, it played a big role in terms of getting things done for the race. And but yeah, negatives were spending, and a little bit of, like, a bit of me being arrogant, which I'm not at baseline. Inflated self-esteem, wherein I had chalked out a few unrealistic plans. And then I dipped. Then I got depressed, and immediately after we moved to Goa, it went into full-blown depression. That's when I actually we realized to see we need to see a shrink. That's when we went and consulted with a doctor, and they said we can't immediately pinpoint it to being bipolar. And we started speaking to a counselor also. So she spoke to my mom, my grandmother, and she figured out that, not sure if I have bipolar or no, but the kind of behavior I have exhibited for years from my childhood, it is clearly a 100% ADD,
Hmm.
attention deficit disorder, without the hyperactivity thing,
Right.
spectrum. Because as a kid, because I was so feeble, uh, I just couldn't play. But inside my head, I was like all over the place, like,
And that
with my
energy,
thoughts. And
as a child, you need that energy to uh, come out, and that's the reason why children
mm,
are asked actually to go out and play, because that energy, wherever it exists, whether it's mentally in your neurons in your brain or otherwise, it has to kind of be expressed.
no, not really. Okay, no, that is one thing. But with ADHD, like, you see, one in four kids today has this problem where they are
Absolutely.
just all over this place. Like, they are so hyperactive, and it's so evident. Like, it is ADHD. Like, you see a kid, a normal kid would like to play everything, but this additional energy and being like all over the place all the time is called proper ADHD.
Okay.
Now, if I was a kid like that, it
Mm.
would have gotten diagnosed much earlier, and
Right.
I could possibly, like, correct it with whatever way. But that was not, because of my case being in the windpipe and everything. And we started medication for ADHD. And then another, I from the dip, I went back to mania. And trust me, I had a very public meltdown in terms of what I was doing. Like, suddenly I got touched with the plight of migrants in Goa, and I was like, I need to do something about this. Like, I started like, feeding all these migrants who are jobless 3 meals a day. And then again, the illusion of certain things and self-esteem. And this time I was justifying it, saying I'm not spending any money for about self-gratification, or clothes or whatever, right? It's a good thing that I'm doing. And I was in denial that that was mania.
Hmm.
And I was and in this, and I had to be forcefully, I had to be put in a hospital, which was a great decision. And my poor wife, I mean, first she had gotten married, first she had to stay alone and face when I was depressed. And suddenly this next cycle of, like, being all over the place, and I was like extremely rude to her, and my parents were trying to, like, just trying to calm me down. But I think, like, the awareness about, forget being bipolar, so it's unheard of in our society. But depression, and the way even the most forward thinking parents like me acknowledge depression, like, I was like, I was told, like, hey, you know what, it's okay, you will be better in no time, or just like snap
Yeah.
out of it, or like, it is just so sad, like, what the person has to go through and get all this stupid suggestions from people. Like, I think, like, once you know someone is depressed, you cannot leave that person alone even for a second, because the person is suicidal non-stop. If he is in full-blown depression, that is the only thing that is going on in his head. And in retrospective thinking about that phase, like, my life is so good, man. What, like, how can my mind not process all the good things in what I had? And why was I thinking like that? Like, I've been an optimist all my life. I think I was an optimist since I was in my mother's womb. I'm that kind of an optimist. Like, and suddenly dipping and mind just not functioning in a proper way. I mean, it is just, I mean, you cannot do anything. You can just take some medications. You I mean, your near and dear ones have to be with you,
Yeah.
and be more understanding of fact that what that person goes through, I honestly, I'll say no one will ever be able to understand. But the only thing that you can do is you can just be there for that person. That is
And I
the
think
only
this
thing that you
is
can
the
do. And
biggest, thing. And I know that a lot of people like the Deepika Padukone Foundation, Live,
Hmm,
Laugh, Love, or something of
okay,
that sort. A lot of people have
okay,
in recent times started talking about, you know, frankly, I'll tell you something, Neil. I really don't like the word mental health because, in my opinion, you are a human being and everything that you need to function in your lifetime is used
correct,
interchangeably, right? So
correct.
I feel that a lot of taboos, don't talk about this, comes with, using these very big words and whatever. I believe that for any person to be functioning in society, you
Hmm,
have to be a holistic whole person, and we all come with certain personalities when we are born, or whatever this mighty universe wants us to accomplish. So like you said, during the Iron Man, you needed that extra energy, so it was given to you, right? But I
correct.
think where we really as a society go wrong is, by kind of trying to say that something is right or something is wrong or something is taboo or something is not
It
acceptable,
is
and for years, I mean, for years, and we have not been talking about these kind of issues in our country, for sure. Of late there is a greater, I would say, awareness, but we're still miles away from where we
light years. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
light years away from where
Correct.
we should be, because like
Absolutely.
you will never know if someone is actually going through depression or an anxious moment. These are all life experiences, and actually what I have come to learn over time is that you go through these things because there is something in you that is in dissonance with something that is around you. There is always a reason, like you said, why, right? um, this is the reason why people go to healers or counselors or get the medication help that they need, whatever. But it's good that we are at least talking about it a little bit. I don't know how many people will watch the show, but like I said to you, that even if one person goes away with a little more understanding, then I think our job for 13th of August 2020 is done. Because
Is done.
it's literally that. I mean, the kind I know, the kind of advice we've spoken about, like that people give you, snap out of it. तुम तो इतने, like in Hindi I will translate, तुम तो इतने smart थे, तुम्हें क्या हो गया? Like
I know, like,
what happened to you? I mean, it's just
absolutely.
bizarre that we do this, and we do this to the ones we love. So
Yeah, yeah,
I'm just grateful that you are aware of certain maybe behaviors that you're exhibiting, and you actually have all the tools to you're pretty aware for a young soul, and you have the tools. You're into sport, you're into great eating, you're open about stuff, you have the support network that you need. So in my
correct.
mind,
Yeah.
you make like a perfect example or a role model for having this discussion and moving forward from there.
I would say far from being perfect, but hey, you don't need perfection to make a change. In fact, the
Exactly.
more imperfect you are, the bigger example you can set in terms of how I'm
Yes,
managing my own and imperfection. I mean,
I know, and
so
thank you
yeah,
for saying about that. That's the right word to be used. Yeah.
yeah, I think all of this, like, is so overvalued, like, having a certain status in the society and having this great job and, like, having everything that is picture perfect, and it's just a bunch of crap. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, we live in a society that profits out of everything. Like, we have been given, especially just because you mentioned nutrition, we've been given wrong nutritional advice back in 1977 by Ansel Keys, wherein carbohydrates, especially like bread and
Ah,
pasta and
is the
everything,
whole
lie at the bottom of the pyramid.
pyramid. Yeah.
That is how you become sick. And then you are told you need all these medicines to manage your sickness,
Yeah.
and then there are side effects to those medicines. I mean, only if doctors were taught good nutrition advice that can, like, possibly benefit so many people. And this whole notion, like, I'll tell you, one was the whole pyramid thing. Second one is the biggest lie of our lives. Cholesterol causes arterial diseases. It does not. And to lower cholesterol, there exists a multi-billion-dollar industry which manufactures these drugs called statins.
Yeah.
And we still believe in our healthcare, and we still believe in our government, who is still propagating this advice which is completely false. And
Always, whenever I talk to like athletes, right? And because I'm married to, well, an amateur athlete. Yeah. Lucky for me, I meet a lot of these people, right? And whenever I talk to athletes, without fail, right? I have like at least one story that comes up where someone's like, oh, I was obese, or I was diagnosed with heart disease, or I was diagnosed with this, or whatever. And the minute they went to the doctor, they'd say, right, so here's the medicine. And it's fine. Please take medicine when you need to. But no
correct,
one was told, please go run, move your butt, and go run for an hour every day. Like, who gets told
correct. That's
that?
what.
No one gets told that, you know? And I
Yeah,
find it
it's just
so
sad.
functional. So listen, Neil, I mean,
Yeah,
we've covered so many different topics, but
array of topics.
uh, it's beautiful that we do, because I think it lends to the fact that we are holistic human beings. Our lives are a summation of many different things. But I wanted to ask you if you were to give some advice or strategies to those who might be suffering from any number of things, whether it could be addiction, or if they are finding themselves with a certain emotional or different challenge, because we are in a pandemic. A lot of people are feeling depressed and out of control of their lives. um, what could you share that could inspire or elevate the suffering?
So for addiction, like I mentioned, it's definitely find your why. And honestly, if you actually manage to do that, you won't have to look for an escape through drinking or drugs. Okay, like, I think addiction is mostly about escaping reality. And and the part about escaping reality only comes when the person's reality is not good. Like,
Right.
speak to more people, reach out to like, healthcare professionals in terms of counselors. They'll give you a different perspective on life. You can reach out to me. I mean, I have done that on multiple times. Like, see, mostly it is also about, for it is not about giving advice. It is about giving that person a thoughtful ear, um, asking relevant questions in terms of when, how, and how it started,
Yeah.
and what they feel about when they are, not fully, when they haven't fully passed out. What are the kind of things that they go in their head? And I mean, these are the relevant things that a person who is offering help can do,
Right.
having obviously first listening to the story with full attention, and not wanting to jump to, okay, hey, do this, do that, do this, do that,
Nice.
because do this and do that would be completely different for different people. I mean, you cannot have a textbook. Like I told you, there's no guideline which is said, for anything related to
Yeah.
addiction. It's very personalized, why someone gets into it, how someone manages to jump out of it. So I don't want people to read my story and find answer in terms of I need to do exactly this. I want them to just know my story and have that hope of things will get better for them. Like, if things have gotten better for me, there is a glimmer of hope that they'll get better for them also. Don't make my story about, oh, he managed to get away with addiction by running, let me also try doing that.
Yeah.
Running is good. Yeah, pick it up as a sport. I mean, in all
Yeah.
its possibility, you might find that as your reason. Not saying no, but then find your own reason. Like, find your own calling and your own reason why you don't want to do it. And I think, yeah, that is for addicts. And yeah, I mean, I have read it in multiple places about the number of people and like, who have depression now, especially because of the pandemic. I mean, it has disrupted the whole world, and every looks and corner of whatever strata of people exist, it has disrupted the whole thing. Okay. um Speak to someone. I mean, that's the only thing that you can do in this situation. I mean, people have lost their jobs, people have lost their livelihoods completely, and some people don't have food to eat. I mean, that's the world that we live in, wherein even the most elite people, I mean, you say Bill Gates does this much of charity. You say this guy does. Is it enough? And what's up with all that hoarding of wealth when you know there's so much more to do? Like, again, not for, see, I'm not sure if I am. It's in my place to point out fingers like that, but I feel at least this of increasing your net worth, and I don't know where they are going with that. When I had shared a post just a few days back of the total wealth of this top 8 billionaires, and with just eliminating like $100 billion from their total net worth, they still have $484 billion left, and what all they can manage to change for the entire society
Yeah.
with that much of money. Like,
Yeah.
why are we not, like, why do we still idolize that kind of behavior? But, like, what is there to idolize in that behavior, which kind of promotes capitalism to a level where they can't possibly exhaust that kind of money in their lifetime. Okay, not even expecting them to, but when they know, like, they can donate so much more, why, what is stopping them from doing so? Like,
You
me
know,
and Judith, like me and my
yeah. Sorry, please go ahead. You and Judith?
yeah, so yeah, me and Judith, like, I went through a manic phase, got depressed, and when I started to feel better, after my depression, we decided in between the two of us, like, we are never going to upgrade, constantly look for upgrades
Yeah.
in terms of the vacations that we take. I mean, I'm not a vacation person. I don't care about traveling abroad or whatever, but my wife does. So we drew a line saying, okay, this is what we are going to do. We are going to have one vacation per year, international, one this thing. We maybe, if you're spending 10 days in that country or wherever, one night at a 5-star is okay, but rest Airbnbs and have a vacation which is actually fun and not driven by
Yeah.
luxurious things. We are never going to aim at buying a certain this of car. Whatever additional wealth that we make after we, like, obviously have our money to spend for our day-to-day thing and little bit of savings, the rest of the chunk is always going to go to, like, making the society better, like, in whatever way we can directly, not
Absolutely.
signing checks to any organization. Because when I point out fingers to some billionaires, what am I doing in my life in terms of,
And
am
yeah.
I trying to hoard wealth at whatever level I am at?
Yeah.
If I do that, I'm a hypocrite. I mean, every human being is a hypocrite, but when it comes to this, I wouldn't want to be even at a later stage. So that's the agreement that we have in
That's
two of us. And if
fantastic. And as a young
It's just
couple, I think that's an example of, uh, I would call them the life agreements that are now important. Because
correct.
when I'll tell you an example, and as I was listening to you, when we were growing up, and as is a rule in most of Indian families, right? You are
Hmm,
told,
hmm.
right, that what are the milestones, beta? The first milestone is that you're going to buy a car, then you're going to have a house, then you're going to have kids, then you're going to have like this and the other and the other, and it keeps going on. And for a very long time, because I come from, let's say, a middle class family in India. And, of course, my parents gave me education, but my dreams were exactly like that, right? I get the car, then I get the job, then I get the international job, then, ooh la la, I get another car. And I've actually reached a point where I realize that, yes, we as educated people now and aware people need to understand exactly what you said, which is about that this quest of being better than yourself, than someone else, will never end, number one. And number two, as a society, these measures of success are not what is important. Like when I started with the podcast, a lot of people were like, this guy is doing this, and that woman is doing that. And you can understand, I have a lot of CEO, CMO, director
Hmm,
friends.
hmm, hmm, hmm,
And
hmm, hmm.
as much as I love and I honor everything that they're doing in their lives, I truly do, because I truly, as a professional, I also have been there, am there, but for me,
Correct,
platform was all about these discussions, where we understand the wrong ideas that we have propagated, and somehow
correct,
start the process of change, so that we are not going to remain such big screw ups forever. That at some point the future generations can understand that it's more important, other things are more important than having whatever it is that we are seeking. And so, Neil,
correct.
I've uh, I've had such a wonderful time talking to you. I've actually not looked at the watch to know how much we've recorded, but I want to really say something to you, which is something that reflected, and from the very first time we had our exploratory call, that,
Hmm,
and I'm not saying this to flatter you. I
hmm.
believe that you are made of big things. It's my belief. Yeah. And it doesn't matter if that means that you'll have 1 million followers or whatever, but I believe that wherever you are in life, you're going to make big change in however you will. And when I look at you, and look at how young you are, you're just 25. Um, there is this saying about, I'm not saying it well, but I'll send you a screenshot later. But
Okay.
there's a saying of, like, the acorn, the acorn, which is the seed of the tree, that the
Hmm.
acorn doesn't know that when it goes into the soil, in the dirt and the darkness, and when it starts reaching for light, it doesn't really know
Correct.
the big pine tree that it's going to be. And
Hmm.
when I look at you, I feel that. I truly feel that. So,
I truly take that as a compliment, but I wish myself nothing but of being a change maker and a person who wants to just lead by example of all the ideologies and all the things that I propagate in terms of the diet, in terms of whatever, like whatever we spoke about, and just lead by example. And hey, and how to put it, you can't change the whole world, okay? But what you can change is you can change yourself. you know
yeah,
you can love yourself more. That way you have a lot more room to love others, and that's how you change the other person's life. And
absolutely.
that person maybe goes on to change someone else's life, because that's what we need in today's times. We don't need more successful people, or we don't need more billionaires, or we don't need more people who are so career driven. What we need is, we need more healers, we need more peacemakers, we need more change makers, for sure. I mean, because clearly we have not, the way we have treated the earth that we live on, we clearly have not done a good job. I mean, if we constantly sit and complain about whatever is going wrong, without actually making an attempt at changing it at personal and interpersonal level, there's no point of complaining. I mean, hey, what are you complaining for? Try to do something about it. So
Exactly.
yeah,
Thank you
yes.
so much, Neil. I wish you every happiness, that which is authentic, that which is coming from courage, and whatever that makes you really shine and shine your light on everybody. And thank you so much for taking the time today to speak with all
I
of us. And I am sure that many people are going to feel connected with you. And I will take the liberty of sharing your details at the show notes below this program. And
absolutely.
let's keep sharing the light, buddy.
Yeah, you too. Yeah, have a good one.